Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hello and welcome to the Dork Forest. This is Jackie Kashian. You know the websites, JackieKashian.com, DorkForest.com. AllThingsComedy.com is the new podcast umbrella, and they have a million other comedy podcasts. If you are looking for more podcasts in your life, that's a good place to start. There is, on JackieKashian.com, an Amazon banner, so when you order from Amazon, and we all do, go to JackieKashian.com, click on that banner, and then do your regular ordering, and I get a tiny kickback. Life is good. So if that's one way that you can donate and support the show. Another way is to buy merch at JackieKashian.com, where I have t-shirts, CDs, and hoodies. I have some hoodies in stock. And then the donation button is there if you want to just donate directly. I'd love everyone to give me $100 a year. And if you don't have $100, well, give me what you can. Or just talk about and buy some merch. Do whatever you want. Anyway, the credits, of course, Mike Rickberg, Sarah Cohen just sang that song you heard. Mike composed and wrote that song, and he's going to sing Mexican Hat Dance again at the end. Vilmos will fix the website, and Patrick Brady is going to fix this audio. Thanks a lot for listening, folks. Let's get right into it. Hey, it's Jackie Kashian. Welcome to the Dork Forest. I'm sitting here with Moshe Kasher. Hello, Moshe Kasher. Welcome to the program.
Man, that was it, huh?
We're in. I know it. I was thinking about doing the credits and the you should donate and all these things. But what I'll do is I'll fix that and I'll just add that.
Well, listen, you guys should donate to whatever it is that Jackie wants. You donate to that.
Yeah,
okay?
Everybody, $100 a year, folks. If you've done it, you know what might happen during the show is we might get a UPS delivery because I love a trinket. You know how I love a trinket?
I love a trinket as well.
I do magnets.
And you order them online?
I ordered them online, but I didn't get the magnets. I got a new trinket coming, a sticker. So
I was going through my girlfriend's house, rifling through her things, and
I'm so glad it wasn't email.
I stacked up these boxes of Amazon deliveries, and I go, yeah, man, you can't spend money like this. This is a bottle of sunscreen from England. And they have sunscreen in this country. And England is the country where they don't have the sun.
Right.
But anyway.
I'm with you. That's crazy. Moshe Kasher, we work together. I had the extreme pleasure of watching you do long sets in Montreal. Many 45-minute sets.
That's true, right.
It was super fun. And it was always different and it was always exciting and it was great.
Thank you. And you were doing the same thing. You weren't doing as long of a set, but if I remember correctly, you were forcing yourself to do a new 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Which over the aggregate of the 8 shows or whatever that you did.
Right.
You performed over 300 new hours of comedy that week, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I believe the math is right on
that.
It was 300 hours.
And that's what I wanted to talk to you today about, which is mathematics. It's my passion, something I am not good at.
The dorkdom of the thing that I'm bad at. What I'd really like to talk to you about is surfing.
Well, that would be cool, It's like I love video games, but I am not good at them. And I admit that freely. I just am not good at them.
I'm a team player. With video games, and I'm more than willing to talk about video games forever.
Yeah.
And not be good at them. And anybody who has any sort of, I couldn't play I too would make some sort of random comment and then be jailed in Texas. If I were a trash talking teen, playing on Steam, Halo or whatever he was playing, right? Call of Duty, I think he was playing, that kid.
Which kid? I was just going with you. I had no idea what you were talking about.
Some 18-year-old young man did some trash talking on the video game Call of Duty, I think it was.
Sure.
Which is I think it's Call of Duty, but whatever it is, it's one of the ones that's over online that's known for being exceptionally trashy talking.
Sure.
Right? And he brought that to the public forum that is Facebook with somebody he plays with and told him he was going to come to their school and shoot them all.
And then
they incarcerated him, and he has been in jail for, I think, almost a month or something like that.
They said if you do death threats, you keep them on this form of electronic media and not this one.
Please do not bring that into Facebook, which is clearly for pictures of kittens.
That's the real world.
That's where we're all really existing.
You've gone too far.
I know. I was just telling you, that Ready Player One book by Ernie Klein. Have you read that one? It's so good. It's Hunger Games for 40-year-old nerds.
Okay.
It's fantastic.
They put 40-year-old nerds into the games, and
almost.
They're all out of breath and wheezing.
Yeah, they're slightly.
I miss my couch.
Where are the Cheetos? Are there Cheetos somewhere hidden in this playing field? Okay, so we did talk in Montreal about what you would dork out about, and you told me you were raised very religious, Orthodox Jewish? Let's wait. Is it, and wait, before we do that, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Kasher and the Rye is your book, and it is an amazing book about stories
Thank you.
being raised in Oakland by wolves.
Yeah, I was raised by wolves. Black wolves.
Black wolves, the African-American wolf contingents, and you were offered drugs and alcohol at a very young age, and you accepted that invitation.
Yeah, the NAACW.
CW?
The National Association of...
Nice.
I don't
What are
know,
you doing?
wolves. Something wolves.
You got
Something
colored
wolves.
people and some wolves, and there's some national associations.
Something happened, yeah.
Excellent. So, and then, so Kasher and the Rye, a book that is available on Amazon and probably on your website, which is?
MosheKasher.com. Or
It'll be linked. It'll be
Yeah,
all
link
linked.
it. Link it up.
And you're on Twitter, and it's all over
course.
the place. You're everywhere. You're everywhere people want to go, and you do stand-up comedy, so they can go see that wherever, too, right?
I'm like Visa.
You're like everywhere except for that some things are priceless.
Everywhere you want to be.
You're not priceless. You could be bought, correct?
I probably, yeah. I would do just about, I would do just about anything for the right price.
I was talking to Augie Smith the other day, and he said, I misunderstood him, and I thought he said that Andy Kindler was showing up on Bill O'Reilly a lot lately. To talk, and he said, and I don't blame him. I mean, you need a paycheck. And I was like, wait, Andy Kindler?
That seems incongruous, yeah.
And he goes, no, Adam Carolla, which is why the Adam Carolla thing blew up or something.
Oh, hilarious. I, too, agree that immigrants should be kept out of the country. I, too, agree that global warming is a myth. I don't know. It's as good as I can do.
That's not bad. It's better than the fact that I recognized it as a win. And it's okay. So we talked. It was religion. It was your upbringing was very religious. Not drugs, notwithstanding, drugs and alcohol, notwithstanding. And then now you're just fascinated by religion in general.
Well, somehow I made it through a life with a very, very religious father without really being dragged down with a whole bunch of religious trauma.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you didn't come out of it.
I didn't come out of it hating religion. I find religious hatred, it's one of these things that I really felt strongly this way.
Yeah.
A few years ago. It's harder to defend the more, violations of the sort of common sense trust that that religion does. But I really do feel like the hatred towards religion is a little bit simplistic. I've always felt that. It's a little bit over, I mean, it's like, there are horrifying parts of religion.
All of them.
I mean, but
Every single one of them.
Absolutely. And there are
fanatics on either side, clearly.
Yeah, and
But I agree.
yeah, of course, there's horrifying parts of government, but nobody wants not nobody, but very few people want a true
anarchy.
True anarchy. Or there's horrifying parts of states, just nation states, and there's horrifying parts of love
And of family, and of all
absolutely.
things, right? I mean, everything can be abused. And I too was raised in a church, a devout, Armenian church, and I don't have any problem with it. But I meet Catholics and I meet some people who are raised in different religions who are angry about religion.
And I don't blame them. I
don't blame that either, because
it makes sense to me. I do a little bit.
Lost.
I do a little bit. I not even a little bit. I outright reject the angry atheist who thinks that it's a good argument for their cause to call everybody that believes in something other than them fucking idiots that are believing in imaginary characters in the sky. It's like, how is this helpful?
Yeah, that isn't helping. That isn't helping you. And the thing is a series of guides. I mean, everyone needs some sort of rules to live by, and so. Like, my oldest brother is an evangelist, and he is super bossy and super he doesn't have another set of rules to live by. And at some point, I wish in his life that he would have been like, those are great rules. Now let's go to the next level.
Yeah.
Where I look at the rest of this and go, oh, the genuine tolerance that Jesus Christ supposedly purported, or what he was pushing that.
He purported it.
Right, he purported it. And go with that as a religious tenet.
Well, that is interesting, right? Is that how it is that Christians, specifically American evangelical Christians in this country, but really religion in general, now we're just about to talk shit about religion, which
Right.
I'm into as well. Really, religion in general has decided, homosexuality is a perfect example.
Right.
They've decided so piecemeal what things are going to be up in arms about and what things they are going to say, well, love the sin or hate the sin, or what, or you know what I mean, where they're just going to say, well, so for, in religious Judaism, the Sabbath
Right.
is the biggest.
Saturday, wacky, nice work.
We invented it.
Right.
We invented the weekend.
That's it.
It's the biggest thing in the whole religion. It's the biggest thing is that you keep this. I mean, it is as up there as monotheism.
Right.
In the Jewish religion. That is
Okay.
big.
Those are the two bigs.
Probably the big is monotheism. Don't
Right.
bow down in front of fake other gods or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
And then observe the Sabbath day and keep it holy. That's big.
Right.
Most Jews, 75% of Jews don't observe the Sabbath day and keep it holy according to a Jewish Orthodox framework, right?
Okay.
Which is no going to work, no driving around, no smoking cigarettes, no turning lights on and off, no ripping toilet paper, which is perhaps the most difficult to explain.
When it gets weird, like you can't flip a light switch or you can't rip toilet paper, and that's where you want to mock.
That one does become difficult to explain to
Yes.
non-Jews. I will grant you that that Orthodox Jews pre-rip their toilet paper.
You got to pre-rip. That's some daytime.
God doesn't want you wiping your butt with unpre-ripped.
Yeah, that's what that is. That's side work. That's what that is. It's
yeah.
almost like working at a restaurant.
So that's the biggest thing, right? But most people don't do that.
Right.
But most Jews, most even Orthodox Jews, just roll with it. They don't go, you
I
firebrand
hate you.
heretic. What's the matter with you? You rip your
Right.
toilet paper on Saturday.
Right. You're checking your email.
Right.
Yeah.
You're out. I will banish you. I'll throw a stone at you.
Because essentially in Orthodox Judaism, you're supposed to spend the Sabbath with your family, kind of sitting around, right? Thinking about good things and chilling out.
Chilling out, studying, doing your thing.
You can read?
You can read.
Okay.
You should read.
Oh, are you supposed to read only the Talmud? But can you read?
I would say if you get to the levels of religiosity that some of my family was in, it's not just on Shabbat that you should only be reading Jewish stuff.
Okay.
And I mean religious Jewish stuff.
Right.
It is literally always. I'll never
It's
forget
not
this.
Noam Chomsky.
Certainly not. That is, even though he was a Jew, is a
Right.
Jew, he's not one of our favored Jews. Not one of the favored nation.
He's chosen, but not chosen by the surrounding people around you.
Well, he's chosen to strongly affiliate himself with the Palestinian resistance,
Right.
which will put you in the crosshairs, no pun intended, of many,
No pun intended.
of many a conservative, politically
Orthodox.
conservative Jew. But
Right.
that's definitely not what I'm here to talk about.
That dorkdom is really just going to light a fire under too many people.
Although we could do Israel, I'm a big Israel dork. But but what my original point is with homosexuality. There's
Right.
this wonderful documentary called "Trembling Before God," which deals with this. Which is homosexuality it is not as big of a sin,
Right.
sin,
Right.
whatever,
Yeah.
as keeping Shabbat.
Right.
But but nobody's yelling at you about Shabbat. But everybody, if you come out to your Hasidic family and say, "Oh, I'm gay,"
Right.
they will not be. You're done.
Well, my sister converted to Judaism, and because her partner wanted to be a rabbi, and they didn't care that they were gay. They cared that Darla wasn't Jewish.
Right.
So Darla converted to Judaism.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's like apologetics upon apologetics, It's like, it's crazy because that is cool in a way that, those people have also
really
arbitrarily decided what things that they'll adopt and what things they won't. It
Right.
just happens to not sound hateful.
Right.
They're one.
Right. It's a little more open-minded, but it's open-minded in a weird direction. Like open-minded can be in any direction, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're like, no, I'm completely open to, you love your cat so much that you have built a separate guest house for your cat. That is an open-mindedness that exists.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you got to understand though with Jews where they're coming from.
Where are they coming from? Are they? Wait,
Israel.
I thought
no,
they were coming from
thank
Israel.
you.
Yeah.
No, I mean the minutia. It sometimes seems so ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Not on the Dork Forest.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I dare you.
They're like the original nerds.
Yeah.
Right? They were so into minutia, and that's the whole thing. Was like there are 613 laws in Judaism. Right?
Okay. Wait. Essentially, wait, are these the 613 commandments that the Christians took 10 of?
Well, no, there are the 10 commandments, but you are correct that the Christians threw out most of the rules, and
There were a bunch of other rules, right?
they would say arbitrarily that it was just coincidental that the most difficult ones to follow were taken out. But
What's more difficult than not killing and sleeping around?
I
and
mean,
stealing?
actually, you're right. Those aren't easy. Not talking bad about your neighbor.
Yeah.
That's difficult.
And listening to your folks? Are you kidding me?
No, you're right about that.
That's me. That's the Bible I'm going to write. Listening to your folks. That's one
Yeah.
of your commandments.
Well, they have those, don't they? They have common language Bibles. Have you ever seen one? They're hilarious.
My brother Terry is writing one.
Good for Terry.
No. I was like, is it going to have a picture of you pressed up against the glass ceiling as you try to become God?
Hilarious.
And he
didn't like that?
he did not like
What?
that, but he was like, I'm calling you to tell you a nice thing. Can't you just appreciate the nice thing that I'm doing? And I was like, I will try to appreciate the nice thing you're doing, and you have balls the size of Gibraltar. Okay, so
right, minutia.
minutia.
For example, sometimes like they'll say, oh, you don't like gay marriage, or you don't like blah, blah, blah. Well, what about this ridiculous thing where, oh, a person shouldn't mix fibers or they'll be stoned, and they're calling it out as if to say, nobody believes in that. But the
Right.
main flaw, you know what I'm talking about?
No.
That example, they'll go like, oh, you don't believe in gay marriage? Well, according to the Bible, also the Bible says that you should always slaughter an ox. And also the Bible says...
Right, it has a bunch of other weird rules.
It's trying to point out an absurdity
Yeah.
and a hypocrisy
Yeah.
which exists for Christians. But the problem is that with Hasidic Jews...
They also believe those
absolutely
600
They're like,
things.
well, yes, I don't believe in that either. I mean, you haven't won an argument there. I mean, even though they don't sacrifice oxes, they really wish they could.
Right, because there's rules for it.
Right.
And they're like, well, if there was a way that we could use these rules.
Absolutely.
Somebody made up these rules. Why aren't we using them? Why isn't it happening? So you were raised Orthodox.
I was raised with a mother that was not very religious and a father that was a Hasidic Jew.
Okay.
But they split
Okay.
because my father got more and more religious.
Okay. And so she had to call it. She was like, I have to actually go get
She's
it.
like, I'm out of here.
I'm out of here.
And so I would go back to my father's house 6 weeks a year and put on a little yarmulke and a pair of slacks and a dress shirt, and I would pretend to be a Hasidic Jew for 6 weeks a year.
Oh, sweet. What time of year was that?
That was summertime, every summer.
Every summer you'd go home. You go to
The time when you want slacks on.
when you went to be wearing long
Yeah.
pants and a hat.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So I would put the little black hat on, when after my bar mitzvah, I got one of those felt Borsalino hats.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And
Is that the name of them, the Borsalino?
well, that's the company.
Okay.
It's a Borsalino is the
Is
name
there
of the
only
hat
one
company.
company that they have a monopoly?
That's your
on-
marquee. That's going to be your marquee
Oh, that's-
hat. That's going to be your top shelf. Bar mitzvah
That's
hat.
your go-to.
Yeah,
That's the one they're like, please.
If you're poor, you go somewhere else.
Right.
You know?
Right. But if you're poor, you kind of save up and you get a
And you
nice
get a
hat.
Borsalino. Yeah,
You
it's
get a
worth
nice-
it. It's
right,
worth
right,
it.
Right.
I mean, that really is the thing. Hasidic Jews are so strange. They do things in the same. When I was growing up, they all had wood-paneled Oldsmobile station wagons.
Okay.
Now, apparently, they all have minivans. Because
Okay.
they all have lots of children.
Sure. Because
You know.
they're you know what you can do on a Saturday afternoon.
Shtup.
Yeah, you can do
You can
some
shtup.
stooping.
Sit on the stoop or go inside and shtup. That's really your choice.
Those are your two choices.
Yeah, that's about it.
So they all have minivans now. It's sort of like a lesbian Subaru.
They are lesbians.
Moment.
They are all lesbians.
Turns out inner lesbians, outer lesbians.
Well, speaking of lesbians,
Yeah.
the complicated thing about homosexuality in religious Judaism and theoretically in Christianity is that lesbianism, which is really nice, a nice
and
word for it.
isbianism.
Not a nice word for it. Definitely lesbians enjoy being called when it's called lesbianism.
Right. Like it's some sort of disease.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Not outright prohibited in the Bible. Now, I think the Apostle Paul does have something to say about lesbians. And surprise, spoiler alert, it is not positive.
Do you know why? Because the Apostle Paul is a tool bag of a human being. He's my least favorite.
Is
Him
he?
and his damn letters.
Well, yeah, he ruined everything.
He was.
Those letters basically ruined the world.
Did they
Well, the bad parts of Christianity in many ways
stem from most of those letters?
from Paul, not from
Yeah.
not.
Not
Look,
from-
if Paul hadn't come along, then Christianity would probably still just be a weird little sect of Judaism, or more likely would have just died out.
would have died out. But Paul, so freaking organized and angry and repressed. And I mean, when I look at Timothy's letter, Paul's letter to Timothy in the Ephesians, and I don't, but when I have,
What does he say to old Tim Dog?
well, it's essentially it's the main one against homosexuality.
What is
where they both clearly have a giant heart on for Jesus.
Sure.
And if you're starting a religion, you're going to be very charismatic. A lot of people are going to
Sure.
want to be with you. That's one of the go-tos. When you're starting a religion, you're very handsome, you're good looking.
You think so, huh? Do you think the leaders of religions are usually good looking?
It's either a charisma that you can bank or you're super sexy, I think.
I like this.
Don't you think?
I mean, I'm fascinated by the idea. I was just watching this documentary about the Source family. Do you know about them?
No.
They were an LA-based religious cult where this guy, Father Yod,
Yeah.
as he called himself, they started
YAD?
YOD.
YOD.
Started a health food restaurant on the Sunset Strip in the 70s, and all these beautiful people it was really funny when they would interview the people that used to be in the Source family. They'd cut back to their old pictures. They were all hot, every one of them. And
See?
Yod was like 20 years older than all of them, but he had fucked them all.
He fucks all of them.
Yes.
All of them. Why wouldn't you? When you look at Moon, Sung Young Moon,
Yeah.
he slept with whoever he wanted to.
Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
My brother was in the Moonies. And,
No way.
yeah.
Wait, Bible writer brother?
No. Second oldest brother who, his entire religious experience revolves around the Lord of the Rings at this time.
Whoa.
Yeah. He's,
And before that, it was the Lord of the Rings, the wedding rings. Thank you, folks. Folks, I'll be here all hour.
But we had to kidnap and deprogram him. The
No,
whole thing.
stop
in
it.
the 70s. My stepmom saw the Donahue show and
Speaking
realized.
of
yes.
the Lord of the Rings and deprogramming, this
Yeah.
is a great segue for me, which
Please.
is a thing that I forgot to tell you about reading secular works.
Right.
My brother is a rabbi.
Okay.
And
Hasidic rabbi?
no, he is technically an Orthodox rabbi.
Okay.
But if you met him, I promise you would not notice.
I certainly wouldn't know the difference.
You wouldn't even notice that he was religious until perhaps he took his hat off.
'Cause
If he wears a yarmulke.
at all times.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or a hat. He wears a cap. But
Right.
literally, if you met him and he was wearing the cap, you would never be like, oh, I'm around some
bet
kind
you
of
that
holy
guy's-
roller over here. You know what I
Right.
mean? He's just like a regular dude. He's mostly, I would say at this point, he is mostly an academic.
Okay.
But technically, he's a rabbi.
Is he did he go the Yentl route where he did some studying?
Yes, and that is just what I'm going to tell you about. He was when my father died when I was 20, and his response to that was to delve very deeply into religion. And so for a while, he was in a really severe Yentl situation, right? And at that place, and he's since like swung back the other direction, but he's still pretty religious. So he was
Which I like. I like that when someone can realize that they've gone too far
Yeah.
and pull back and go,
Exactly.
I still believe, I still have beliefs, but yeah.
Well, what's funny about my brother is that he started in this very, very, very like intense place, but because he was there and he didn't belong there, he would rebel. Right. So he said on Christmas he was running through the halls singing Christmas carols, which is like not cool. Not cool. Like, but he was doing it to be like, fuck you guys.
Yeah.
Which is just like, you're here voluntarily. You can just leave. You don't have to say fuck you. You can just walk out. You're not in prison.
Yes.
But he was, in a way. But anyway, he was reading The Lord of the Rings, of
Right.
all things.
Sure.
And this guy is like, what happens is when you go to Israel, you can get very easily sucked into some of these extremely religious yeshivas is what they're called. They're seminaries.
Okay.
But they're not seminaries to train you to become clergy like how they are in Catholicism. You go to
Right.
seminary basically to become clergy.
Yeah.
In Judaism, basically everyone needs to go to seminary, at least for some period of time.
Okay, to sort of know what you believe, to sort of get really in touch with your religion.
Well, the thing about Orthodox Judaism is that the highest form of worship in Orthodox Judaism is academic study.
Okay.
So that is why Jews sometimes they might, come off as smart.
Because they're
or
nerdy.
something.
Because they're nerdy as all hell. Because they're doing some reading.
Well, they're doing reading, and the result of that has been that over the past 2,000 years or whatever, Judaism has had one of the highest literacy rates of any cultural or ethnic group ever. So therefore, after 20 generations of study as the highest form of worship, then you get it's not like genetic. It's like cultural. It's like,
cultural.
why are there so many Nobel Prize winning Jews? Not. It's probably because they've lauded study as, the highest.
6,000 years. Everybody's like, why don't you have a book in your hand?
Right. And I wouldn't, just to be very pill-pull, again, no pun intended, it wasn't 6,000 years.
No.
Now, prior to the Romans coming to Israel and fighting the war with the Hebrews and kicking the Hebrews out of what was ancient Palestine and forcing them to wander.
Right.
Judaism was much more of a religion of the earth or whatever, the way that religions back then were, where you had a priest class and they did the religionness for you, kind of like how Catholicism was for a long time.
Right.
They would slaughter the ox for you, and if you did something naughty, you'd bring them a sacrifice. You'd bring them money to buy a thing to sacrifice, or a
chicken or whatever.
You just weren't as involved. You were religious, but you were kind of, you weren't like an expert.
Okay.
You were just a guy who was plowing the field. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they had a temple where all of the liturgical rites of Judaism would take place.
Right.
The Romans came along. There was a big war that was fought. They destroyed the temple. The sacrificial cult of Judaism was destroyed. And then eventually they kicked the Jews out of Israel entirely, leaving them to wander the earth until 1947. So what happened between the year, I don't know what it was, 100 or something, whenever it was that they kicked the Jews out.
Right.
And 1947, where they came back to this day, which is that they didn't have their main liturgical
they didn't have a
center.
site.
They didn't have a site. They didn't have if your whole religion is based upon doing sacrifice according to the rules in this book, and then they take away your place to do the sacrifice, you can't really do it.
Well, what if you why can't you just build a new place to do a sacrifice? What was the place?
That's pretty complicated, but I can.
What is it? Yeah, please.
Well, the place was it was called the Beit HaMikdash, the main temple. It's the Western Wall.
Yeah.
So here's how holy the Beit HaMikdash was.
Okay.
The Western Wall is not a wall of the Beit HaMikdash. It's the wall of that went outside of the wall. So it's a holding wall for the internal wall, which was actually a part of the temple. So it wasn't even, it was just a security wall.
Okay.
It's basically like, the barbed wire fence for a mansion. They're like, oh, holy barbed wire fence.
Right. And so 100 feet beyond that is where the actual holy thing is.
It was.
Right. Well, okay.
And now it's a different, now there's a mosque there.
Okay. But there was a site. That was the site where all of the dealy bob would go
all
down,
the sacrifices.
Now, if the sacrificial part of Judaism went away, why so excited about that piece of land?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I mean, to unpack that and without getting political, because,
Get political, I don't
Well, I have stopped having the conversation about Israel-Palestine with anyone on either side of the debate.
Right.
Because they are both so unfathomably intolerable. Pro-Palestinian people, pro-Israeli people in general are incapable of seeing the conflict through anything but the exact black and white.
You know what you could do with me? Flip a coin.
Yeah.
And I could be on either side.
Me too, actually.
Right. Just because it seems like there's bad activity going on in both places.
It's just so obvious. And even if one party is to blame more than the other,
at any given
matter.
Sunday,
It doesn't help.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't help.
Here's the thing. I was thinking about this yesterday. I don't know why, but I think it was on NPR. There was some Palestinian thing going on on NPR, and so I was thinking, all countries were created. All current countries that exist right now are countries because they hold themselves to be countries, right? They have either a military presence or a physical presence or a cultural presence that has made it possible for them not to be, like in some cases, not to be consistently attacked. Everyone knows Brazil is where Brazil is.
Sure.
So they don't get attacked. Israel is a country because it's strong enough to be Israel, right?
That's interesting, right?
Right. So it gets to be Israel for as long as it is strong enough to be Israel, right? And it was created. It's been around now for 60 years, 50 years. What are we looking at? 70?
60, 70, 1947, whatever.
47, whatever that would be. So, I think they're doing their best to continue it to be a country. And, so, I mean, if you look at because I love history, right? And so you look at the comings and goings of countries in the world, and that's how they exist. So.
Right. I mean, look, if you want to get into my criticisms of Israel, we certainly can do that. And they are plenty. Like, basically the idea, exactly what you said. Israel is so strong that the narrative that the world continues, the pro-Israel,
Like the governments.
whatever, the narrative that Israel is somehow an imperiled nation is not true anymore, and it is not useful anymore. That's often what you hear from a pro-Israel side is like,
right.
the people around them want to destroy them. At any moment they could be destroyed, but it's like, yes, that might be technically true. They are a factor of 10 the most powerful military anywhere in that entire region.
In that region, almost the entire world.
No one is going to destroy Israel. No one.
Right.
That will not happen.
It'd be like trying to destroy North Dakota, which has all of our missiles. You can't do it.
Yeah, it just isn't.
If North Dakota wanted to be a power, it could be.
Right, so it's no longer a useful, in my opinion.
That's true.
It's no longer a useful argument for people to go, but they want to kill us, but they do want to kill us, but they can't, so let's move on.
Right, what's the next sentence?
And why do you think they want to kill you? Like, look, now we're going to get into some real wacky, like the whole thing about 9/11.
Yeah.
Everybody was terrified to say, like, what happened was the worst thing ever, but you do understand why people would want to destroy America. You must see that Al-Qaeda didn't just exist because in a vacuum Islam is an extreme religion.
They're not jealous of our freedom.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's an interesting narrative that somehow in some far off Middle Eastern nation, a group of religious fundamentalists are so upset by American, Western ideology, which, by the way, to some degree, I'm sure they are, because I'm sure they don't want Hollywood imagery and sexualization, blah, 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 that they would go attack us.
I'm furious about hoarders, but I'm not going to bomb anybody, right?
Right. Well, I'm aroused by hoarders, but that's just what I have a different relationship with it than you.
Different relationship. Yeah. Okay.
But anyway, my point is, so that's not useful. And then I sort of got derailed here. By the way, I still know that I'm about to tell you a story about Lord of the Rings in seminary.
Are you?
We
haven't even got to that yet.
No, we have. We
weeded off because I wanted to know why that plot of land is still so important.
So, and on the other side, just to clarify.
Oh, just to put both sides out there so that we don't get a lot of letters from people.
Well, we'll get probably more letters from people on the Palestinian side, and I hesitate to say side because it's like that's what I remark on the most is like, the leaders of these countries, you see these 70-year-old men going, you started it. You're the bad guy. No, you're the bad guy. You started it. You're a terrorist. Well, you're a hegemonic, blah, blah, blah. Well, you're you know what I mean? You want to kill us. Well, you're a colonialist. It's like, guys, grow up. Who cares?
Right.
Who's at fault here? The one argument is the power dynamic is so far in Israel's favor that the onus is on them to do more of the heavy lifting.
Right. They're supposed to be the adults in this situation just because they have all the power. And they genuinely do.
Yes, they genuinely do.
Right. And that's where I get mad. And it's interesting because, I'm Armenian and I have this Armenian ancestry and this cultural Armenianism, and people are like, well, the Azerbaijanis, there's 5 miles. And I was like, I'm not doing it.
Right.
I refuse to become an apologist for the Armenian government. I'm already apologizing for the United States government. I have to already somehow find some way to love my own country.
Totally. Without
trying to love a country. As my father would always say, what are you going to move back and become a shepherd? What's going to happen?
Right.
We're here now. And so it's...
Your father, not the Armenian one.
He's Armenian.
Oh, he is? Okay.
Yeah, completely Armenian. And
Awesome.
He's like, but he's not political about it at all.
Right.
He's barely political about here. Because let's get back to the Lord of the Rings, because he hasn't voted since 72. And I said, why haven't you voted since 72? He's like, because neither one of them are on my side. Why would I vote for them? Which is the argument of the Ents.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings. And we're back.
Bringing it back to Ents. So my point was which was that my brother. So that was the highest value, was the value of study. Oh, I'm sorry. So they got kicked out. Let's leave the question of why that's important.
Okay.
They got kicked out of the Israel Palestine.
Right.
This has nothing to do with current Israel Palestine.
Right.
And they had no sacrificial liturgical blah blah blah. So they thought, well, how do we do this? Our new liturgical rite.
Yeah.
Will be the study of these laws.
Okay.
The academic delving into these laws.
So that's what caused it. So they go out into the woods and they're like, or they're in the wilderness, and they're like, you no longer have the place for you to make your sacrifices. So your sacrifices are going to be the study of the laws and the existing
That'll
culture.
become the new expression of the Jewish religious life. Will be some of the rituals
Right.
that are left, and that
Right.
makes sense because according to the law, you can't do the sacrifice without that temple in that place.
Oh, weird.
Okay. So Judaism comes from a time in religion where, and Hinduism is similar, where you couldn't, the idea of I am a Christian because I believe in Christ, I decided that idea is a very modern idea of religion. In fact, it's a very Protestant idea of religion, and it's related, that's what I studied in college, is like, it's related to like a capitalist idea of religion, which is I am a consumer and I will select a product which makes me the most pleasure I want.
Right.
So I select Protestant Christianity with a slight, you know what I mean, snake dancing bent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So that's a very new concept, you know.
Okay, yeah.
4,000 years ago, religion was what you were born into.
Right.
So, you know, Hinduism, Hindu means Indian.
Okay.
So it just means a person that's Indian. So the idea of like, I'm going to convert to Hinduism. To a lot of Hindus, less so now with Hare Krishna. But, you know, because they've had these offshoots where they do missionary and stuff. It's just not really a thing. So
Right.
Judaism is a very similar thing. It's like you were just a Hebrew.
Right.
Right?
That was your thing because that's where you were born.
Right.
Right.
So anyway, so they went out. I don't know why I was making that point, but anyway.
Well, no, I like it because the religion was so different back then. So when it changed from you have to make sacrifices in that one place till we no longer have access to that one place. We're going to change the religion a little bit to the study of the rest of what's left.
Right. So that's what happened. And my brother was in one of these places where they study, and it became very, very quickly like the upper echelons of this religious Judaism. They do not look at other forms of media. They just don't. You know what I mean? They don't read books.
They just read
watch
books
TV.
about the rules and regulations and liturgical history and all this stuff.
They don't even read fiction. I mean, they don't. Even religious Jewish fiction, that's for kids. You know,
That's for kids.
They have such a thing, but that's for kids to get them ready
And
to
only in
prepare
Purim.
for
Only on Purim.
Yeah, right. So my brother was in in this yeshiva, in this seminary, and he's reading The Lord of the Rings because his mind is probably going crazy.
Yeah.
And somebody goes, "What are you reading?" You know, and he's like, "I'm the Lord of the Rings." He goes, "I go, why would you read fiction?" And David, my brother, is like, "Why would I not read fiction?" And the guy goes, "I remember this so well." He goes, I do not want to read another man's lies. Like, as in,
wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the point of fiction? What function does fiction have? It's just some guy's imaginations.
Right.
You know, like, what do I
Right.
give a shit about that? The only thing that matters is leaving aside that maybe
Right.
the Bible has some lies in it too.
Right. That it might have been rewritten.
Let's not even get into that.
Yeah,
Right?
Totally.
It's like,
but that's so fascinating.
Isn't it?
That the point of fiction is to escape something, is to be lied to.
Right. It just has no value. It has no purpose. Why would I? It wasn't even that it's religiously unacceptable.
Right.
Although probably
Or frowned on or
there are
whatever.
probably things in Lord of the Rings that are religiously questionable to a Hasidic Jew. You know,
Possibly, yeah, sure.
Ents, for example.
Right.
No one believes in that.
Right.
But you know what I mean. I like the idea of other gods and things like that.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the point. The point was just like, why would you bother?
Right.
Why bother? We've got this ultimate source of truth.
Right. Aren't you looking for truth in life? Why wouldn't you go to the source?
Right. And this is what's true, and what you're reading, you already know isn't true.
Right. And it's so interesting because why I read fiction is because it helps you find truth from a different angle. Right.
Interesting.
And that's like, especially science fiction and all kinds of speculative fiction where they want to discuss the big issues. But you want to discuss the Israeli-Palestinian issue, but you don't want to discuss the Israeli-Palestinian issue?
Well, how about the Gormots and the Tarborgs?
Exactly. All of a sudden, we're in Star Trek land, and half people you want to discuss racism, but you can't discuss racism? Right. So, I mean, the thing is to study religion is gutsy stuff, I think.
Well, that's what I studied in college. I chose to go in a different direction than my brother, which was not to study religion from a religious perspective or whatever, a divinity perspective, but rather to study it from an academic perspective. Although my brother has since
Where'd you go to
started
college?
I went to UC Santa Barbara, which
Okay.
strangely enough has the second best religious studies program in the country.
Excellent.
Believe it? or not. And so I studied Western religion, and I studied. I'll tell you one of the most fascinating things that I learned. I don't know, maybe this is obvious to other people, but to me it kind of blew my mind. And this is why I kind of tried to think of religion not just as an obvious. By the way, the people that want to say religion is good, religion is bad, are the same people that want to say Palestinians are good, Israelis are bad, and vice versa. It's just people's desire to think that the truth is a knowable thing and that there are good people and bad people. Really, it comes down to people's terror that the world is gray and terrifying and lonely and cold.
Right. If you cannot see any sort of gradation, it's people who are, it's anger and fear is what leads people to say one thing is right and one thing is wrong.
Right.
And
they want to know a knowable truth that isn't knowable.
Right.
And even the people, and I know that there's some atheists listening right now like, exactly, that's what they do. And probably some religious people going, exactly, that's what they do. Right. But the truth is, like, anyone that claims to know what is true just is not a person I want to talk to.
Right. I was on Emery's podcast. It's Ardent Atheist was the name of his thing. And I was like, I was like, I'm not an atheist. Why would you want me on there? And he was like, no, that'll be perfect. We'll talk about it. And we didn't. He made fun of me. He made fun of me for 40 minutes and I made fun of him.
Right.
Then we're comics. And so, but it's not, that's not a real conversation. A real conversation with someone who does not believe in, like Maria has a hard time believing in a higher power, right? She doesn't want to believe in a God. She doesn't want to, it's hard for her. And you're like, okay, well, don't worry about it, right? I mean, believe in what you believe.
Right.
But she doesn't think that people who do are idiots. And she doesn't think that because she can't, she's flawed. She just thinks there's a disconnect, right? And that's all it is.
Yeah. So exactly. So the thing that I found so fascinating, and and obviously religion doesn't always conflate with theism, right? It's not always the same thing. Buddhism and Zen and Taoism and
isn't always
they don't always have a theistic element to them, although
there's not always a God, is what you're saying,
right? A lot of people that believe in Buddhism and would like to point to Buddhism as like this perfect thing are ignoring the fact that like there's a lot of theism within Buddhism.
Is there?
Yeah, Buddhism. I said Buddhism. I believe it's a technical term is Buddhism. Although I do believe in Buddhism, and it's a God that I can believe in.
Boom, boom. No one ever got hurt by a little bit of partying.
That's right.
That's not how that song goes.
The thing that really sort of fascinated me was that they've never found a human group that didn't have some sort of religious
whether it was
cosmology in some way. In some way. So say what you will, you can I can already hear the ardent atheists' response to that, which is human beings are weak and afraid, and they all need to create a myth in order to make their existence have meaning. But you could look at it from the other perspective, which is spirituality and religion and in prayer and meditation and trying to detach yourself from consciousness, from self, and get into the higher states of consciousness is something that is intrinsic to the human experience. It can't be separate. There's never in history been a human group that didn't have that.
Right.
So it is in some very direct ways what makes us human, right? Like the idea that we changed from apes into something different when we started burying our dead. Right. And when we started looking at the fact that we are going to die and became aware of that and then became self-conscious and terrified of it, which is maybe why we created
religion. One of the first things is when we buried our dead?
Definitely people point to that as like a big sort of moment in like human consciousness, right?
Wow.
So, and maybe it is an illusion, but it's the illusion that made human beings human being.
Right.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. To go, people die. What does that mean? Because, your dog, I think, doesn't know. It might know that things cause death. I mean, it might know don't run towards that because that's a jackal.
Right.
My dog, I usually will have him around jackals. Yeah, right around the jackals.
Just to keep him on his toes.
Yeah. Put him in the jackal pit, take him out, just so he knows I'm his master and I put him in and out of there.
Right. I can get you in and out of that jackal
But
pit.
for sure, your dog doesn't sit around going like, geez, What's going to happen to me?
What's next in my doggy world?
What's going to happen to me when I die? well, should I make an impact here? Well, you know what I mean? It's like they're just
No,
So
old
we're-
Yeller. I'm gonna go. What I'm gonna do, the best thing a dog can do when they know they're gonna die, is they're like, well, I should probably go get out of the way.
yeah,
Because that's what they like to do. They're like, oh, I'm pretty aware that time is coming. I
Right.
should go find a corner where I can rot in peace.
Right.
And
So this idea that is so angering to so many people, this idea
Yeah.
of a cosmology or a theistic kind of worldview, is part of the building blocks of consciousness and humanity. And also, if we're going to be honest with each other, and I think we should, Jackie.
Let's do it. Let's start minute 40. Start being honest.
Religion is also responsible for some of the biggest and most important positive things that have ever happened. It is also certainly responsible.
For some of the biggest and most non-positive things that have ever
Absolutely.
happened.
No question about it.
But why wouldn't it be? If it's a building block of civilization, why wouldn't it be responsible
Right.
for the biggest things that happen, both good and bad?
The civil rights movement,
Sure.
abolition.
Right? Abolitionism.
These are these are all
They stem
you
from
couldn't separate it.
democracy.
Democracy, charity, helping the poor. All of these are concepts that stem from religious.
Right. I mean, if you look at Locke and Hobbes and the difference, like Thomas Hobbes had this whole thing about the nature of man is the reason we gather in groups is to protect ourselves from other groups.
Right.
And the reason why there's one leader who's stronger is and then we give fealty to that person. And if that's all there is, because the thing about Hobbes is I think he might have been an atheist, but it was
Right. His partner, what was that guy's name? Calvin. Right.
Oh, right, Calvin.
Calvin and Hobbes.
Man, remember Calvin's mom, man?
Oh man.
It was the worst. She was always getting blamed for shit in that comic strip. Did you ever read, I think it's Mike Carey. It's a comic book series called Lucifer.
No, if not.
It's a spin-off of Neil Gaiman's Sandman series. And it is the greatest theory of the devil. Because the theory of the devil is that the devil he was sick of God's ineffable plan.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like, well, I'm going to go and not be part of heaven. And I'm going to be in charge of allowing people to torture themselves in hell. And that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to be and so the beginning of Lucifer is he's talking to God and God says, oh no, see, the creation of heaven and hell were part of my ineffable plan. I knew that you were going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so Lucifer's like, you son of a bitch. I am not going to do this anymore. And he leaves.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
And so he leaves. And every time Lucifer does something, God's like, no, I knew you were going to do that.
Uh-huh.
It
Is God just being obtuse or
God's a dick.
he's being a dick?
No, I don't know. But I mean, God's like, he's like, no, the part of my ineffable plan was that you would eventually give up hell. And Lucifer's like, you son of a bitch.
Right.
This is not.
Right. Just let me do one
I
thing.
just want to can I please just have my life back? I just want a jazz cafe in Los Angeles.
Nope. I'm out of the jazz cafe thing.
I knew it was going to happen.
Sorry.
It was going to happen.
Love a jazz cafe.
La Brea,
I'm
right?
God. I am a big fan of jazz.
Did I not smooth jazz? Jazz.
No. That now, smooth jazz, on the other hand, not a part of my ineffable plan. That I cannot control. I don't know where that came from.
But it's an excellent examination of sort of predestination. Is that
Right.
the word I'm looking for? Okay, and sort of it's essentially from Lucifer's point of view of you can't just call that you called it, right? You're just like, no, I knew that was going to happen. That's the worst childish thing in the world. So, I don't know why I weeded off on that, but
Well, where were we? We were talking about the positive things that religion has been affiliated with. Art in many ways, art,
and a support of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's another thing I learned on a never found a religious group thing. This is much less important, but we're just dorking on a dorking
Just dork
out.
out, yeah.
I studied this religion and sexuality class. As far as I could tell, there was no religious group that didn't have a cosmological explanation for a woman's menstrual cycle.
Really?
Like every single religion, some were positive, some were negative, but every single religion freaked out so hard that women bled once a month that they had to create a spiritual reason for it.
Can you remember any?
I mean, well,
what do the Jews say?
The Jews say Well, I know that. What I mean, I can't remember what the Jews' explanation for it is, but there are certainly religious.
Like weird fun facts? That
Yeah,
they came up with?
for example, this one is not good.
Well,
but I'll tell you.
It may not be a positive experience.
This one's
but there's
not
one,
good.
I got
but
one too.
The thing, when you're menstruating and you're a religious Jew, then you don't have sex during that time. You don't even, if you're really religious, you don't even touch during that time. And at the end of it, like you go to a ritual bath and you purify. I mean, I'm sorry to say purify, but I'm not responsible for that.
Because you didn't create it.
Yeah, no.
You're not saying that women are unclean.
No, I am not. I'm saying God says that women are unclean. That's all. I mean, hey, come on.
I'm just quoting the book.
I'm only talking about what the Lord Almighty hath wrought.
Right. Well, Aaron Foley does this joke about how in Africa, some African cultures, there is the menstrual hut.
Right, the red tent. The
red tent, and women dash off for 4 or 5 days, and she's like, I don't mind that little solo time, little get away from everybody, and a bunch of unclean ladies. I mean, everybody does sort of freak out about the menstruation thing
to such a degree that every religion we studied needed some kind of reckoning with it. I just thought that was so weird and interesting.
Somebody has to address it, and you're just like,
you can't just look and go, oh, women bleed once a month, men get boners. Okay, let's move on.
Right, because that's all. I mean, it's almost exactly. It's not this. I mean, it's clearly a plumbing issue to clear out the you want to have a baby kind of situation.
That's actually
right?
The Zoroastrian view of menstruation is actually, if I could quote the original
really?
Farsi is it's clearly a plumbing issue. I believe that's what they say.
Well, I mean, if you think about the plumbing of the human body, that it doesn't make any sense that like where you exist, like your sexual organs are right by your waist organs.
Right.
You're just like, that's busy. A lot of busy work going on down there. Why so close?
So there you go. I mean, Judaism has an explanation for every single thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a...
Well, that's because the love of minutia, as you were saying.
Exactly.
Right?
So everything from pooping...
40 years wandering around. Conversations got weird, man.
Absolutely.
They got weird.
Well, that's what the whole Talmud is. People don't know, I mean, people that haven't studied the Talmud, the whole Talmud is just literally a bunch of Jews arguing. It literally is that. I'm serious.
Awesome.
That's literally what it is. It says, well, Rabbi so-and-so said, well, what do you do about a woman who, is menstruating, but then says she's not anymore, but then you have a reason to suspect that she still is. And then Rabbi blah, blah, blah says, well, you should take her to word. And blah, blah, blah said, well, women lie. And, you know what I mean? And it's just like back
and a third guy's like, well, why would she lie? And what the hell's going on?
Literally the whole, and then you turn the page. Now, Rabbi blah, blah, blah says, what do you do about honey that has been cooked in the blah, blah? It's just like these, and then there's these absurd, like, well, what if, and there's these examples
Superman
of like.
and Batman, who would win?
It's exactly right. It's basically just people nerding out. Like, there are these things in that, you're not supposed to put a candle out on Shabbat, right?
It's got to burn itself out? Is that the deal?
Or you're supposed to blow it out before Shabbat starts.
Okay.
But what if, Shabbat comes in at 7:12. What if it's 7:12 exactly? You blow the candle out, it poofs back to light for 1 second later, and you realize in that moment that if you don't blow the candle out, it will burn your house down. What are you supposed to do?
Right.
Do you know what the answer is?
What?
Let your fucking house burn down.
No!
I swear to God.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
If there's human life involved, then you can blow the candle out.
Do you think it was anti-Semitic people that created the trick candle?
It could very well be. That seems likely. Or a very playful Jew with a novelty store.
They're tricky. They're tricky sometimes.
It's hard to know.
It's it's so funny because of the religion thing. You can tell me history, you can tell me theology, you can tell me cultural, you can go political, and it's not all. I mean, what we have discussed in this last half hour is what I guess I'm saying is not entirely the Jewish culture and Jewish religion. But it's been a lot of it, and it's it's fascinating.
To me, it's fascinating, and maybe it's because somehow I came through my weird childhood unscathed and untraumatized to enough of an extent that I just thought, like, that stuff's pretty cool. Yeah. And, like, when I go to Mass, Catholic Mass, I think that's cool. Like, one of my favorite facts about Christianity, and I'm sure people know this, but is the first ecumenical council at Nicaea.
Right.
Which is,
bastards.
it's just so amazing. Like, basically Jesus was around He had all these apostles. They all wrote books. And then people wrote books purporting to be apostles. And then other people were the apostles of the apostles. And then about 200 or 300 or 500 years later, they had like 100 books.
Right.
And they all said, well, these are gospels. So they literally, and this isn't like, this isn't like me being an upstart. This is straight up accepted history by everyone.
Right.
Although I would venture a guess that most Christians don't know that it's true.
Right.
Which is that at a certain point, they said, well, what are we going to believe in? There's so many books, and some of them contradict each other.
Yep.
So they literally called a gathering of the biggest
names in Christians.
Exactly.
Yep.
The biggest headliners in Christianity. You know what I mean?
It was a festival. It was a con.
It was the just for Christ, just for Jesus.
Christ con.
Yeah. Christian con.
Christian con.
And they literally just had a meeting where they decided which of the books were going to make it into the liturgy. And then once they were done, all the other books, they said those are not true. And all the books that were left, they go, this is the ineffable word of God. This is literally true.
We're going to pick a lane.
And so the people that are the Christians today that are saying this literally, I believe every word of the Bible literally, they believe that those are literally the word of God because a group of people, human-ass people, and this isn't even debatable.
Yeah, just 37-year-old men.
Yeah,
a bunch of, like a group of like
exactly.
137-year-old men all met in Paris.
When these 5 books are in, those 90 books are out. Cool, that's the word of God.
But let's put them in a vault just in case, in Rome, and hopefully recopy them every 70 or 80 years, because you know what the hell.
So to me, that was so fascinating when I learned that. I was just like, oh, I can't believe that a thing that is accepted as cosmically true, written by God
among billions of people,
also is accepted. It is accepted that was decided. Though that which books that was true about were decided by human beings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always that meeting. I used to think, because I don't have enough history of the Armenian Church. I've been meaning to have this woman Uhi on, who has.
I love Uhi.
Uhi is a great name, isn't it?
The best.
And it's a play on her last name, which is so long in Armenian that nobody can pronounce it.
Azerbashik Markaming Chunginli.
Saroyan.
And
but she. But the deal is I always thought that the reason the Armenian Church, I thought the Armenian Church was part of the Catholic Church at one point, separated after we didn't make a meeting. Which was one of those big meetings.
You're late.
We're going to just go our own way. Because there was in the 300s, there was some big meeting. It was the Nicaea meeting. It might have been the first, might have been the second.
Who knows?
God only knows.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'm sure some human knows, but it ain't us.
It isn't us. It isn't in this room at this time. But the Armenians couldn't make the meeting because we had Persians on 2 fronts. Because we were the only Christians surrounded by Muslims. A lot like the Jews were the only Jews surrounded by, Muslims. And the Armenians, I asked my dad a couple of weeks ago, I was like, we were in Montreal, and I asked my dad what the Armenian word for chutzpah was. And he said, there isn't one. And then, my brother said, it's mole hayastan. And my dad laughed and laughed. And I said, what does mole hayastan mean? He says, it just means very Armenian.
Interesting.
So all Armenians are full of chutzpah is what the theory is. Because most Armenians think that they're amazing. And
hey, many of them are.
Many of them are.
I dated an Armenian woman once.
Did you?
Yeah.
Was she nice?
She was very nice.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Was she first generation? Was she from?
Yes.
Over?
No. I mean, she was second. Her parents had accents.
Her parents had accents. She grew up here.
Yes.
Okay. That's awesome. I think that's first generation. I don't know what the hell that is.
Whatever
it is. But, yeah. So, but it's.
So what?
The point of what was the point of his, what I thought,
they broke off.
Right. I thought that they broke off from the Catholic Church, but I guess much like the, Greek Orthodox and the Ethiopian Orthodox.
They'd never signed on?
They had never signed on.
Interesting.
Yes. And the Armenians have more in common with the Ethiopians than they do with the Greeks.
Oh, that's fascinating.
It is fascinating since so many Armenians are racists.
Do you know
yes.
That the entirety of Ethiopian Christianity, or at least traditional Ethiopian Christianity, is based around the idea that in Ethiopia, in their main temple in Addis Ababa, they own the Ark of the Covenant. They have it.
What?
It is in their main temple.
I thought it was being looked at by top people.
It's being looked at by ghost Nazis. And Harrison Ford is very upset. No,
Very upset.
the thing about the Ark of the Covenant, and
Yeah.
this will be a great way for us to end, actually.
Okay, good.
The big thing about the Ark of the Covenant is it was once in this famous temple, you might remember from earlier in our discussion, in Israel, called the Beit HaMikdash.
Okay.
And then the Romans came in, and they destroyed the temple.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And in the melee, the destroying of the temple, the major artifacts of religious Judaism, the staff of Aaron, some other thing, the main like a breastplate of the high priest, and
Okay.
the Ark of the Covenant were lost.
Okay.
Right?
Wow.
They were lost into history. Nobody knows what happened to them.
Cool.
Now, the Ethiopians believe, and it is not implausible, that what happened was people stole away to Ethiopia. They certainly did, because how are there Ethiopian black Jews in Ethiopia? Does
Right.
not make any sense. Mm-hmm. Other than there were Jews in Israel, they all got kicked out, and they ran to Ethiopia. It's certainly plausible that
And there were Romans down in Ethiopia,
Exactly.
so
It's certain-
that makes that
Yeah.
that does seem super
So
plausible.
it's certainly plausible that in that melee, in that crazy running refugee thing, that somebody took the Ark of the Covenant to Ethiopia.
And they claim to own the actual Ark of the Covenant.
They claim to own the actual Ark of the Covenant. Now, here's where the rubber leaves the road, which is that it's in this main temple, but no one can see it. No one can ever see it except for one man.
Is he the giver?
He is
I don't know if you ever read
Indiana
that.
Jones.
He is
No,
Indiana Jones.
He is just the head of the whatever, and it
Right.
changes when that guy's about to, it's like the Pope or whatever.
Okay.
When that guy's about to die, he gives the key to the other guy. No one ever sees it. Therefore, it seems pretty unlikely
Super
that
unlikely.
it's true. But,
But I would think
it could be true.
It could be true, and it could be it feels like that's where it went.
It
does
feels
feel
plausible. And then it disappeared or something, right? Maybe
Right.
it went down there and then they lost it and they just were like, well, if we tell the truth, people won't believe anymore.
right.
But this is how interesting religion is, It's like the people run from Israel to Ethiopia. They're Jews, but then Christianity comes along and they start the Christian Ethiopian church, and then they are in that, and then Haile Selassie becomes the king of or emperor of Ethiopia. He goes and visits Jamaica. A bunch of Jamaican people think he's Jesus Christ reincarnated. They start Rastafarianism. I mean, that's how religion is. It's like a little spreading virus,
Wow. Moshe Kasher, you
yes.
have been a delight.
Well, thank you. And let me just say this.
Plug stuff.
I would
Or
like
say
to
stuff.
plug. I have a brand new album out. It's called
Right.
Moshe Kasher Live in Oakland. It's my stand-up comedy special that I released on Netflix, now in album form.
Right, hard copy.
So go to moshekasher.com,
And there'll be links.
MOSHEKASHER.com, at Moshe Kasher. Jackie, this has been real fun.
That is awesome. And I love dorking out at the end of it with an Indiana Jones reference. Take care of each other out there, Rangers. Good night.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?